Very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Committee for Members in Practice of Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, I welcome you all in today's VCM on Professional Opportunities for Chartered Accountants and Indian Perspective on Rise of Special Purpose Acquisition Companies, SPACs. So on behalf of CMP of ICI and Rohtak branch of NIRC of ICI, I welcome you all in this today's VCM. We are having with us our eminent speakers, CA Shiva Goyal from Rohtak only, and Chairman Rohtak branch, CA Ajay Huda ji, Vice Chairman sir, CA Nikhil Narang ji. Well, on behalf of CMP, I welcome you all, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir, today's both the topics are very relevant. First one is the emerging professional opportunities for CAs. In order to tackle this, we are having with us CA Shiva Goyal ji from Rohtak. And another hot topic, IPOs and SPAC, special purpose acquisition companies. So that will be tackled by CA Abhishek Gupta ji. He will join in a couple of minutes with us. So I request the Honorable Vice Chairman of Rohtak branch, CA Nikhil Narang ji, to please start the proceedings of the VCM. Over to CA Nikhil ji, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. On behalf of Rohtak branch of NIRC of ICI, I welcome all our members and speaker, CA Shiva Goyal ji and CA Abhishek Gupta ji for today's webinar on this emerging professional opportunities for chartered accountants and Indian perspective on rise of special purpose acquisition companies. Before proceeding with the seminar, I would like to invite our chairman of Rohtak branch of NIRC, CA Ajay Huda ji, for their welcome remarks. Over to you, CA Ajay Huda ji.
Thank you, Nikhil sir. On behalf of Rohtak branch of NIRC of ICI, good afternoon and warm welcome all the participants and our guest speaker, Shiva Goyal ji and Abhishek Gupta ji, in today's virtual CPA meeting on very interesting and demanding topic for young members as well as practicing members. I am also glad that the Committee of Member in Practice of ICI give an opportunity to Rohtak branch of NIRC of ICI for hosting the today program, which is very useful for the young members. Now, I am requesting to Nikhil Narang sir for do the further proceeding to start the program.
Now, I would like to introduce our first speaker today in our today's webinar, CA Shiva Goyal ji. He's a fellow chartered accountant by profession and practicing at Rohtak. He has deliberated various sessions on GST in various branches of ICI and co-authored a handbook on GST, that is GST impact on real estate sector. He is MCS faculty of ICI and giving deliberations at various branches of ICI, and he is also a meditation trainer. He has also completed his PDBA in finance, diploma in IFRS, and providing virtual CFO services to various companies. He is indeed a young and dynamic chartered accountant on a mission to help the chartered accountants in exploring various untapped areas and specialized areas of practice and become an expert on the same. And for Rohtak branches, and in today's, especially after this, during this COVID era, no webinar can be expected without the esteemed presence of Shiva Goyal, whether he is with us as a speaker or in any form, his presence is must. Over to you, Shivaji, please.
Thank you so much, Nikhil Narang ji, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, Ajay Huda ji, Chairman of the Rohtak branch. I especially thank CMP of ICI for considering me for this VCM, for this wonderful opportunity. Of course, I welcome our co-speaker, Abhishek Gupta ji. And by not taking much time, I right away start with today's topic, that is the emerging professional opportunities for chartered accountants. Shall I share my screen, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes. So is it visible, sir? Is it visible? Yes. So now we will touch upon the various new professional avenues and taking practice to the next pedestal by engaging in the management consultancy and other services. You know, there have been a lot of services that we chartered accountant do not know, and today we are here to learn new things other than what is taught to us in the traditional practice. In the traditional practice, we generally get to know about the income tax returns. We generally get to know about the audits, be it tax audit or company audit. And we are in this red ocean blog. If I say this is a red ocean blog, this is bloody with the competition. There is very slow growth and a stagnant growth. And there are a lot of chartered accountants in this ocean practicing over there. So we as a CA, young professionals, when they start the practice, they are very much frustrated कि sir audit में इतना काम नहीं है या इतना amount नहीं मिल पाता. We hardly get any assignment for those that can give us the high amounts, because we all are running into this red ocean blog. We have to beg for the reader attention. There is very slow growth over there. What I am today covering is to how to jump from the red ocean to the blue ocean, where there is uncontested space, where you stand out from the crowd, where there is very few competition and you are free from the competition, and you capture a new demand outright there. You have a specialized knowledge. You are there to serve the client, and that is very unique client that is not there in the market. You are only known for that particular ocean. So I am going to touch upon the various aspects where you can really build up your practice, where a young member can be specialized in few areas. So I will be talking for next 5 minutes that why as a CA firm we are not able to achieve the desired success. Maybe we lack upon 3 important aspects. Number 1, administration. Number 2, service delivery. And number 3, optimal use of technology. As an administration viewpoint, I would rather say कि हम audit कर देते हैं, we complete the audit and we do not get the time to raise the invoices to the client. Even audit happens, 3 months passes by and we forget to collect the amount. So we have a condition now कि अगर 180 days से beyond payment receive नहीं हुआ है तो audit, अगर previous audit fees receive नहीं हुई है तो हम audit conduct नहीं कर सकते. So even institute is now coming up with so much of the initiatives so that we as a CA firm can have better administration, be it in billing or be it in follow-up mechanism, be it in anything. We need to be administered properly. Next is service delivery. In service delivery, I would say whatever the amount we get as a part of the assignment, but we should never ever compromise with the quality of the assignment. In certain cases, in the recent cases, we have seen that we as a chartered accountant firms are not able to cope up with the quality, with the standards that our institute has raised to that manner. Even we are not following up certain compliances, be it imposed by the RBI or the NBFC or any of the regulatory compliances. We need to work upon the quality aspect, be it any amount, but we as a chartered accountant should never compromise with the quality that we have. We have a standard over there, and we should never compromise with the quality standards. And next is we must use the technology part. If we're not technology savvy, if we are not using the technology, we are not using the ecosystems, we are not using the artificial intelligence, then perhaps we are lacking behind. The work that can be completed in the macros or in the Excel or in Zoho books or in any of the software in fractions of seconds or the couple of minutes, that work if we keep on performing manually, then of course we are not going to get the success. We need to learn the technology, and that is the need of the hour. So in next 45 minutes, I'm going to share very powerful secrets to revamp CA career, and there are a number of opportunities that you're going to learn. So we tend to learn as a young chartered accountant, we get qualified. We tend to think that in which specialization we must go. We are supposed to be specialized in Company Act also, in the GST also, in the tax audit also, in the income tax also. So we are very much confused as a young chartered accountant. We think we are specialized. We can be specialized in various things, but trust my words, you have to be specialized in one of these area, not in all. You have to be master of one You don't have to be like an MBBS doctor. You have to be a heart specialist. You have to be eye specialist in the doctor's profession. But as a professional chartered accountant, we can have a specialization on one of the subject. What are those subjects? I'm going to talk about that. First one is the chartered accountant can play a role as a management consultant. You know, management has a lot of requirements, like we develop MIS, where there are a lot of comparables. There is the current month figures compared to the previous month figures. And there is a lot of information that is very much relevant to the management, be it debtors aging, creditors aging, what is the status of the stock, how that stock is there. You know, we design the budgetary control systems. We can determine the measures of effective utilization of the capital. We can install the cost accounting systems. We can assist the management in the efficient use of working capital. You know, in the COVID times, working capital has been really challenging for the businessman. When there were lockdown situation, there were fixed cost incurring and working capital का सभी businesses को बहुत problem आया. So government introduced with the emergency lending schemes. So we, as a chartered accountant, who can better serve the businessman than chartered accountants in getting those funds through banks, through the government different schemes. We can advise management in the planning of work, in the delegation of work, reviewing the procedures for the operational control, review of the financial planning and policies for the effective utilization of resources. We can advise management on the amalgamations, reconstructions, takeovers, expansion schemes. I, as a chartered accountant, was gave the consultancy in one of the firm where there were like 5 to 6 firms. So we advised management to just merge all the 6 firms and come up with only one private limited company. So we need to advise management what are the synergy benefits outright there if we go with the merger or the takeovers, and how can we save the cost. Like banks have also merged in the recent time. You have seen that there are various banks that have been merged. So why they have been merged? There are various cost effectiveness. There is a lot of cost savings. Branches have to be in one particular area. Lot of savings, employee cost, renting cost savings. Lot of things are there. So you can assist management in that to the management that how you can save the cost. You can assist management in the preparation and feasibility studies of new projects, expansion schemes. You can advise them on the system analysis and designs. You can assist management in finding solutions for the specific business problems. It might be related to the product mix, pricing decisions, like what should be if a management is introducing a new product in the market, then management consults with the chartered accountant that what should be the price mix, what should be the pricing of that particular product in the outright environment, in the outright market. So we can advise on that. Appraisal of personal policy is one of the area. Then we, as a professional chartered accountants, can advise on trade remedy measures, anti-dumping, anti-subsiding, safeguard duties, export, import, trade और custom valuation में there is lot of scope. Custom valuation में what happens? मैं सभी टॉपिक्स के बारे में बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं बताऊंगा because there are lot of opportunity, but I will touch upon each and every topic where you member can see कि there are lot of emerging opportunities for the chartered accountant other than the traditional practice. Custom valuation में for an example, the declared value as per the commercial invoice for an example is 1.19 or 1.20 for any product. For an example, relating to textile market for a fabric, the declared value is 1.2 and custom valued it at 1.8 per USD for the purpose of custom duty. So later on, what we can see, we can pay the duty under protest and we can go to the appeals and get the refund of the differential excess duty paid. So this is very unique area. This is very niche area where the young members can study and can guide the clients, can get the refunds of the clients. So this is very niche area, very unique area. International commercial arbitration is another area. Special economic zone, अगर आप पढ़ते हैं EOU में आप अगर स्पेशलाइजेशन करते हैं और प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो आप देखिएगा कितने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, देयर आर वेरी फ्यू चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स दोज हु आर प्रैक्टिसिंग ऑन दीज एरियाज. देयर इज अ क्लाइंट, अगर कोई मुझे कॉल करता है कि सर कोई सीए बता दो जो स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन में डील करता हो, तो यू विल सी दैट देयर आर वेरी फ्यू चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट दोज हु आर डीलिंग इन दिस पर्टिकुलर एरियाज. आप ट्रिप्स पे कर सकते हैं, ट्रेड रिलेटेड इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स पे आप प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं, एडवाइजरी एंड रिलेटेड सर्विसेज टू द state and center government. There are various academic research opportunities, international taxation is there, DTA is there, double taxation avoidance agreement, जिसमें हम देखते हैं कि अगर दो कंट्रीज का कोई टैक्स का डिस्प्यूट हो रहा है, दोनों कंट्रीज टैक्स इंपोज कर रही है, देन वी रीड आउट द DTA, तो हम देखते हैं कि किस पर्टिकुलर कंट्री का टैक्स रेट लगना चाहिए. इनबाउंड आउटबाउंड स्कीम आर देयर, FEMA एक्ट इज देयर, cross-border merger and acquisitions are there, competition laws are there, KPO sector, corporate governance. You know, we used to read out a subject named as ISCA, information systems and audits, where we used to be taught like what is IT governance, what is corporate governance, what is business governance. So अभी हमने सिर्फ उसको पढ़ा है, but practically हमने उस पर काम नहीं किया. So until and unless हम प्रैक्टिकली उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया पे काम नहीं करते जब तक, तो हमें उस एरिया के बारे में नहीं पता लगेगा. सो व्हाट एज अ यंग चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट वी नीड टू डू, वी नीड टू लर्न अपॉन दीज एरियाज, बी इट बिजनेस वैल्यूएशन और एडवाइज द क्लाइंट्स ऑफ द LLP, इंटरनल ऑडिट्स, प्रिवेंशन ऑफ मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग, RTI, ERP, VAT. ERP में अगर आप देख पाएंगे तो एंटरप्राइज रिसोर्स प्लानिंग में कंपनीज आर कमिंग अप विद द रेडीमेड सॉफ्टवेयर, बीट ERP और SAPs. तो जब ERP इंट्रोड्यूस होता है या SAP इंट्रोड्यूस होता है, तो दे ओनली कॉल अपॉन चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हु कैन गाइड कि सर जब हम मटेरियल का परचेज करेंगे, प्रोक्यूर करेंगे, एंड टिल द टाइम इट इज डिस्पैच टू द कस्टमर, तो वो होल प्रोसेस कैसे कैसे रन करेगा. तो वी एज हु कैन एडवाइज टू द मैनेजमेंट better than a chartered accountant on procurement of material, on purchase of the material, on GRNs, goods received notes, then how it will be moved to the store department, then after store how it is moved to the finance department for the invoicing and accounting thereof, and finally the payment of that purchase, and that too with the productions and then going with the sales and dispatch process. We are involved in each and every process. We have potential. We have been taught in such a way that we know each and every process in whole of the company, production process, in company enterprise resource planning as a whole. We can advise on the e-filing, risk management, treasury and cash, bank audit, other areas. तो आप देखेंगे एक एक करके मैं आपको जस्ट स्लाइड्स के थ्रू गो थ्रू करवा दूंगा सो दैट यू कैन हैव एन आइडिया. अगर आप इस पर फर्दर रिसर्च करना चाहते हैं कि अगर आपकी स्पेशलाइजेशन या आपका इंटरेस्ट किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया पे जाता है और यू से कि नहीं मेरे को एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटीज के बारे में रिसर्च करना है और मैं इसमें प्रैक्टिस करूंगा या करूंगी, सो you can research on that area on the Google, or different committees of the institute is organizing the various virtual webinars on the separate topics. So there, according to your interest, you can pick a topic and read out and research on that topic. कौन सी companies है जो कौन सी firms है जो उस पर practically काम कर रही है. So you can seek the help of the fellow chartered accountants and you can really build your expertise in these particular areas. So मैंने बताया कि एंटी डंपिंग, एंटी सब्सिडी, सेफगार्ड ड्यूटीज, डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट प्रोसीडिंग्स एंड रिलेटेड साइट्स, इनकी लिंक्स भी दिए हुए हैं. एंड आई विल शेयर दिस स्लाइड विद द CMP committee and they will in turn share among the members. So there are export import custom valuations का मैंने अभी बताया कि you can assist in fulfilling the various regulatory and the licensing requirements, documentation, risk assessment. There are different national rules and regulations, judicious management of the finance, credit and security. There are various areas in the export import. अभी आपको पता होगा कि there is a new scheme, remission of duty permission scheme. There was a subject also in the CA finals, indirect taxes, foreign trade policy, जो all the marks में कम वेटेज रखता था, but अगर आप देखें कि इस प्रैक्टिकल वर्ल्ड में फॉरेन ट्रेड पॉलिसी से रिलेटेड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ स्कोप. You can build your practice on MEIS, SCIS, स्क्रिप्स के ऊपर. अभी जो रिसेंटली न्यू स्कीम हुई है और न्यू बेनिफिट्स गवर्नमेंट ने नोटिफाइड प्रोडक्ट्स पर लॉन्च की है. सो यू कैन इवेंचुअली स्टडी द होल स्कीम. You can guide to the import-export customers, and there is a niche out right there. There is abundance out right there. There is a blue ocean out right there. International commercial arbitration is another very much lucrative area. Then we come to the SHTP. There are certain technology parks, software technology parks, जहाँ पर बड़े सारे incentives government देती है, जहाँ पर tax havens भी है, income tax में भी बड़े सारे benefits हैं, ATIA, ATIB, IC. तो आप नए स्टार्टअप्स को बता सकते हैं कि अगर आप यहाँ अपनी यूनिट को लगाते हैं, इस पर्टिकुलर टेक्नोलॉजी पार्क में लगाते हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट के क्या क्या बेनिफिट्स हैं. And you can work as a listener in getting benefit from the government, and you can really reach out to the client, to the startup entrepreneur. So who can work better than a chartered accountant in these particular areas? And then therefore certification are there in the various exports. Lot of areas are there. I have just put down these slides and links like HTTP, SCZ India. So any member who is interested in getting more knowledge or more can want to do the more research on these areas can go to those slides and can read out the different schemes available out there. Then TRIPS is another area, trade, intellectual property rights. There you can advise on the taxation, acquisition of the IPR assets, accounting, arbitrator, negotiating royalty, agency distribution, franchise drafting licenses, intellectual property management on audit, infringement analysis, opinions and certifications, representations before. Nikhil ji, I hope you are unmuted. Nikhil ji, can you please be on mute?
हाँ जी मतलब इसके 4-5 बार पढ़ने पड़ेंगे, एक बार दोबारा जो देगा.
I request, yes. So there is further various advisory available to the state and central government. There are various academic and research opportunities for the young chartered accountants. If you are very much interested in academic opportunities, you love to write an article. So you can, that article, you can give that article to the member section. Your article will be published in the Board of Studies. There are various outright websites where you can disseminate knowledge. You can write an article and your article will be published outright there. So you can be appointed as a faculty in the academic research and management institutions. Various IIMs, various management institutions, various commerce, universities and the colleges call upon chartered accountants to deliver the sessions. So young members who are very much who are very keen to disseminate knowledge, who can be a speaker, who can give knowledge to the students, they can play around this academic and research opportunities. They can really go dive into this research opportunities, and there is a separate market outlet there. Then comes transfer pricing, DTA, taxation in the foreign companies, consultancy with the FEMA Act. FEMA के बहुत ही कम चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स है वो डीलिंग एज अ फेमा कंसल्टेंट्स और फेमा में प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं. तो फेमा में देयर इज लॉट ऑफ स्कोप आउट देयर, लाइक देयर इज अ इंपोर्ट. जब भी कोई कंपनी इंपोर्ट करती है तो बिल ऑफ एंट्री फाइल होती है, एंड व्हेन द पेमेंट इज डन टू द आउटसाइड पार्टी, तो देयर हैज टू बी नॉक्ड ऑफ ऑन द आरबीआई पोर्टल. बट समटाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस, ऐसा नहीं हो पाता है. Those knocking off is not done due to certain issues in the industry. Practical issues are there. So who can perform better than a chartered accountant in getting those issues resolved? If you have the knowledge of FEMA Act, then you can lead that client, you can give them expertise, you can share your knowledge by being in the FEMA Act framework, and you can really guide the client. TRIMS is another very lucrative area, very niche area, where you can act as an arbitrator wherever dispute arises in the international field outright there. Then there are cross-border mergers and acquisitions. आपने देखा होगा there are very multinational companies who come into merger and acquisitions. तो उसका financial due diligence होता है. There is a legal due diligence outside there कि whether that merger and acquisition is compliant to all the legal rules and regulations pursuant to both the countries. तो legal due diligence. तो for an example, अगर इंडिया की कोई कंपनी है and that is doing the merger and acquisition with the another country company, so we as a chartered accountant, Indian chartered accountant, can give our advices on the Indian company's financial due diligence as well as the legal due diligence, and we can act as a valuer, advisory on the cash repatriation, equity financing, advisory on the debt restructuring and income flows and their taxability. So those members who are interested in the merger and acquisitions, you can eventually see in the Big Four there is a separate department of the mergers and acquisitions. So the members who want to gain their expertise can eventually do the very best in these particular areas. Then comes to the advisory roles, inquiry, investigation, to appeal before the commission, wherever any proceeding or representative are allowed to be present. KPOs is another area where we as a chartered accountant have shown our expertise. There is end-to-end processes of the foreign clients, which we as a chartered accountant can do the accounting, can take up the accounting assignments, and we are paid in the US dollars or the pounds, whatever assignment belongs to that country, depending upon that particular segment. We can deal in the financial analytics, financial modeling, deal profiles, index graphs, model verifications, credit rating and analysis, beta tracking, and lot of those areas. Then comes to different areas under the KPO, जहाँ पर आप internal management support roles में advise कर सकते हैं, evaluating potential merger and acquisitions, transfer pricing and taxation supports, forecasting and budgeting, employee requirements, internal financial reporting, MIS reporting. See, these are the things we have learned in our training, in our articleship training, and when we do it for the foreign clients, then that is very much valued. We are valued and we are very much paid for that particular purpose. So we know everything. Who can say that a chartered accountant doesn't know how to make a MIS? कौन कहता है? हो ही नहीं सकता किसी को ट्रायल बैलेंस MIS ना बनानी आती, हमें सब आता है. But what is very important, we don't get the platform to go on. So there I am depicting that these are certain websites where you can do the research. KPO Asia, BPO India, Department of IT and Ministry of Communications and IT, NASSCOM की भी website है जहाँ पर आप अपना further explore कर सकते हो. Then another area is corporate governance. मैंने बोला कि there is this is the area corporate governance जहाँ पर there is a ample scope out right there. Corporate governance आज के time पे आप देखोगे कि governance has been a very important play a very important role in today's day age, where there are a lot of scams and frauds happening in the outside world in the companies. So we as a CA can be advisor to the management, top management. We can advise on the good corporate governance practices being followed in the industry, and we have been taught and equipped by our institute that what are the best followed governance practices out there. So we have maybe it might be possible कि हमने उसको theoretically पढ़ा है, but if we can practically go into that area, so there is a ample scope out right there. तो ये सब है chairman of the audit committee में CAE होता है, virtual CFO CEO certifications भी होती है, business valuations मैंने आपको बताया, merger acquisitions में processes होते हैं बहुत सारे. तो बहुत सी slides ऐसी है जो basically there are a lot of slides out right there. Cross merger I have already covered, KPOs I have covered. तो मैं just touch upon कर रहा हूँ areas को कि क्या क्या areas है. LLP is another very lucrative area. LLP agreements आप draft करते हो, a chartered accountant even can charge 50,000 lakhs of rupees for drafting the LLP agreement. But you have to give that quality to the client. You have to be very, you have to get expertise in that drafting of the LLP agreement. Be it, you can also draft the partnership agreements, partnership deeds, but with how much expertise and with how much good quality you offer the services, that is going to deal that how much successful you can be in your field. Then comes the internal audit. Internal audit में बहुत से एरियाज हैं जहाँ पर आप इंटरनल ऑडिट करते हो, कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस की, ट्रांजैक्शंस ऑफ डिपॉजिटरी पार्टिसिपेंट्स की, बैंक्स की, ट्रेजरी ऑपरेशंस की, प्लास्टिक मनी ऑपरेशंस की, इंटरनल ऑडिट ऑफ एनपीओ. So there are a lot of internal audits, or we have a different board in the institute itself, internal audit standard board, जो बहुत से standards भी जिन्होंने produce किए हैं, और जो time to time बहुत सारे lectures भी देता है, बहुत सारे virtual webinars भी organize करता है कि practically internal audit के areas में आप कैसे काम कर सकते हो. तो जो CAs अपनी internal audit में practice build up करना चाहते हैं या specialization gain करना चाहते हैं, those can refer to that particular, listen to the webinars or the seminars happening outright there, and can gain knowledge how they can give advisory in the field of internal audit. Then comes another area, emerging opportunity area, that is prevention of the money laundering. You can be a consultant who is providing his vast expertise in handling huge quantitative data for verification of the exact nature of the transactions. KYC audit is there, customers due diligence procedure is there. Then comes RTI, you can explore on those areas. Then comes ERP. I've earlier talked on this area ki ERP mein kya hota hai. Selection of the ERP product, ERP documentation, pre-implementation testing of ERP. Then comes GST, goods and service tax. सबका favorite है GST आज के time पे. But GST में अगर आप returns पे रहोगे, execution पे रहोगे, compliance पे रहोगे सिर्फ, that is not going to work. If you are into the filing of GST 1-3B, that is not going to work. You have to see कि GST में भी बड़े सारे areas हैं. Like you can give on the GST consultancy. You can give your GST consultancy on the litigation part. You can also deal in the litigation part. Various show cause notices are coming to the clients. So we as a chartered accountant can gain our expertise in how we can reply to the show cause notices, how we can reply to the various, there are summary assessment, ASMT 10, we can respond in ASMT 11. In merger takeovers, there is ITC 02, जो CA certify करता है. There is a option there कि CA का certificate लगेगा. Only then ITC can be transferred to the another entity. So there is advanced ruling. So CAs, other than in the returns process or the compliance process, can gain their competitive edge, can enter into the blue ocean in such areas where there is very less competition, such as I talked about advanced rulings. I talk about appeals, GST appeals, litigations. Then I talked about ITC 02, 04, dealing with the various summary assessments, responding to those assessments. If you build your practice around that area, then you will stand out from the crowd. You will not be very much GST. We as a chartered accountants are saying in the market like GST audit is gone. See, if GST audit is gone, that is gone. But there are ample opportunities we can see and we can serve to the client other than GST audit that I talked about. So बहुत से areas हैं GST में जो अभी भी आप guide कर सकते हैं, आप अपनी expertise दे सकते हैं client को. There is not only the audit that is going to work. There are these areas that I have talked about that can really make the career of a young chartered accountant very fulfilling. Then comes e-filing, risk assessments, recognizes the long-term and the short-term risk. Then treasury and cash is another very lucrative area. where you have to manage the capital structure of the company, like how much debt has to be there, how much equity has to be there, or there has to be a mix and match of debt and equity so that the company's cost of capital is put to the optimum level. You know, we used to read out the concept of the weighted average cost of capital. So you have to give advice on those particular areas. Then bank audit में आप देखते हैं inventory audit, concurrent audit, IS audit is there. अब softwares की भी audit होते हैं. Information system audit is another very lucrative area where softwares का audit होता है. तो उसका जो program होता है उसका source code को देखा जाता है कि whether the program is well coded or not. So उसका भी audit होता है. तो the CAs, the young CAs who have very much good hand on the information technology can go into these IS audits. आप देखेंगे कि अभी जो स्पेशल मॉनिटरिंग प्रोसेस करके भी एक कमेटी बनी है जिसमें कि जो भी एक्सपोजर्स, जो भी क्रेडिट एक्सपोजर्स 250 करोड़ से ज्यादा के होते हैं उसके लिए स्पेशली सीए फर्म्स को असाइनमेंट दी जाती है और मॉनिटरिंग एजेंसी होती है जिसमें कि उस कंपनी के सभी पर्टिकुलर ट्रांजैक्शंस को सीए फर्म मॉनिटर करती है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो एक्सपोजर दिया है वो उसी पर्पस के लिए तो यूज हो रहा है ना जिस पर्पस के लिए एक्सपोजर मिला है. तो उसकी ट्रांजैक्शन पर मॉनिटरिंग होती है और वो मॉनिटरिंग करने के लिए बैंक gives the assignment to the CA firm only. So you see there is a lot of scope. अगर हमें पता होगा today through this particular webinar, the VCM, we are getting to know कि lot of opportunities are there in the bank audit, in the real estate. आप देखिए रियल एस्टेट में आप रेरा के ऊपर कंसल्टेंसी दे सकते हैं. हर स्टेट का अपना रेरा होता है. तो अगर आप देखिए कि रेरा के ऊपर जो डेवलपर्स हैं, जो प्रमोटर्स हैं, वो उनको बहुत से एडवाइजरी चाहिए. एंड हु कैन गिव दैट एडवाइजरी ऑन रेरा? वी एज अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट कैन कम अप in the due diligence reviews. Then liquidation, SOX compliance, peer review are another very good areas. Capacity building. We as a chartered accountants can work in business, then practice, financial service, public sector. We can deal in the franchise of the taxation software company, consultancy services, audit expertise services, outsourcing services, open as academic for chartered accountancy course, or we can act as a CFO or the virtual CFO. Virtual chief financial officer के ऊपर एक सेपरेट सेशन भी इंस्टीट्यूट ने ऑर्गेनाइज करवाया है. बट मैं थोड़ा सा इस पर टच अपॉन करता हूँ कि एज अ यंग chartered accountant we can be a virtual CFO. Now what is virtual chief financial officer is something that we can go to that company on a visiting basis for like 2 days in a week, 3 days in a week as per our agreement with that particular company, and we can give our retainership services to that particular company. So we can be a virtual CFO in 1 company, 2 company, 3 company, and we can overall control the financial operations, whether all the operations are financially or in the compliance terms, whether all the compliances are being done properly. So all the things we can advise, and we can advise to the client. We can see, we can do the audit, or we can take an assignment कि सभी चीजें बहुत अच्छे से हो रही है, before the due dates हो रही है, and we can be a virtual CFO. It's one of the very unique area. Taxation, accountancy, auditing, management accounting, बहुत से areas हैं. Just मैं slides को run through करूंगा due to the paucity of time. IPR laws, Competition Act, legal compliances, KPOs, forensic accounting. There is a course also, forensic audit and FAFD, forensic audit and fraud detection. तो आप देखिए कि उसका अगर आप प्रैक्टिकली इस पे काम करते हैं तो इसके बहुत से असाइनमेंट आपको मार्केट में मिल जाएंगे. बट वेरी फ्यू फर्म्स आर वर्किंग ऑन दीज पर्टिकुलर एरियाज. इंसॉल्वेंसी, कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस, रिस्क असेसमेंट, कार्बन क्रेडिट, सिस्टम क्वालिटी, रियल एस्टेट, ICDS, black money, operation and mismanagement, PMLA, banking, insurance, manufacturing. These are e-commerce. There are different GST provisions for the e-commerce companies. Everyone knows. So अगर कोई e-commerce industry में अपना forte build up करना चाहता है तो he has to read out rules related to the income tax or the GST, which is very much relevant to the e-commerce industry. E-commerce industry has come up with a very huge potential, be it Amazon or be it Flipkart. There are various new startups coming up in the e-commerce domain, and they are seeking your advices. They are seeking the advices of the young chartered accountants. We have that. We have been built in such a way. We have all the knowledge. We can guide to those e-commerce companies that what are the legal roles and responsibility, what are the legal compliances that need to be fulfilled for that e-commerce startup or the e-commerce companies operating in the market. Then venture capital, private equity is another area. ICDS that I've already covered. Environmental accounting, HRA accounting. When we talk about that human resource accounting or environmental accounting, then I will touch upon the area of sustainability reporting. I was reading somewhere कि अभी companies profit report करती है, but soon the time is going to come. Foreign में तो start हो चुका है, India में भी एक दो companies voluntarily report कर रही है कि resources का कितना exploitation हुआ, कितना हमने resources को use किया, कितना अगर कंपनी ने प्रोडक्ट बनाया और मार्केट में उसको ऑफर किया तो उसने कितना ह्यूमन रिसोर्स और अदर रिसोर्सेज जो कि बड़े क्रिटिकल रिसोर्सेज थे उनको कितना यूज किया. तो सीए हैज टू prepare an audit report on same, not only on the profit part but also on the resources part that are scarce resources, that are very much resources that are for our future generation. We have to save the resources. So we as a chartered accountant are going to give audit report on those particular areas. Human resource accounting, environmental accounting, हमने environment को कितना खराब किया तो उसका impact assessment कौन करेगा? We as a chartered accountant will do. Government accounting, management accounting, import export consultancy, ESIPF consultancy, concurrent audit, bank audit, CAG audit, environment audit, forensic audit, IS audit, stock audit. बैंक्स में जहाँ भी लिमिट्स होती है तो जो सीसी लिमिट्स होती है वो स्टॉक्स पे दी जाती है. एवरीवन नोज दैट. तो उसके लिए स्टॉक ऑडिट का असाइनमेंट अलॉट होता है. रिवेन्यू ऑडिट कि कहीं रिवेन्यू लीकेजेस तो नहीं है. अगर कोई चार्जेस लगने थे हो सकता है कि बैंक ने चार्ज ना की हो, फॉर दैट रिवेन्यू ऑडिट इज हैपनिंग कि कहीं रिवेन्यू लीकेजेस तो नहीं है. प्रोप्राइटी ऑडिट, एनर्जी ऑडिट, sustainability reporting I've already talked about. We can act as an investment advisor or as an intermediary in the capital market, institutional sales. Lot of opportunities are there. Risk management, fund manager, equity trader, dealer, research analyst, valuation, investment audit, statutory audit, tax audit, independent director, forensic audit, corporate governance audit, actuarial valuation, product development, third party claim administrator, portfolio management services, surveyor and loss assessor, reinsurance management services. Then we can give our advisory and compliances relating to financing of the project. आप देखते हैं कि जब भी कोई स्टार्टअप आता है तो वो प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट, बैंक फॉर एनी फंडिंग हमसे प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट मांगता है. तो प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट की जो फाइनेंसिंग होनी है तो वो किस बेस पे होनी है? वो प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट के बेस पे होनी है. एंड हु कैन मेक अ बेटर प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट देन अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट? सो वी एज अ सीए हैज huge opportunities in these kind of advisory services, be it relating to the funding or lease, financial viability of the projects, registration, the stamp duty. कहीं areas में कुछ free zones है जहाँ पर government has come up with the different schemes, जहाँ पर stamp duty पूरी waive off कर दिया government ने, या stamp duty का different states में 75% of the stamp duty paid आपको refund मिल जाता है. So until and unless we are aware of these particular state or the central government subvention schemes, particularly related to the MSME sector or otherwise sectors, that we will not be able to advise to the client. So we need to study those particular schemes. जो MSME sector में CS deal करते हैं तो उनके लिए आज के टाइम पे there is a huge opportunity outright in the market where you can advise the different schemes of the state and the central government, and each and every client is looking for those services. जहाँ पर अगर हम client को कहते हैं कि sir there is a state subsidy, you will have a like GST refund, और सर आपको स्टेट में जीएसटी का इतना बेनिफिट मिलेगा, आपको स्टैम्प ड्यूटी का बेनिफिट मिलेगा, आपको टर्म लोन पर इंटरेस्ट सब्सिडी मिलेगी. तो you need to study those schemes. You need to choose your area of expertise. You need to study that area in a very expertise way, and then only you can provide service or advisory to the client. So I will be running through the slides, and you can eventually see that on which areas you can give your advisory. On consultancy on the legal matters, property disputes, court cases, then opportunities under the Real Estate Act, consultancy regarding the adherence to the provisions of the Act, advisory on the provisions of the law to the various categories of the client, to act as a business consultant for an organization and not a tax consultant, as most of the indirect taxes are subsumed to the GST. Implementation of the Ind AS. हमें पता है कि Ind AS की एक separate field है. IFRS Ind AS has a special recognition, और उसके लिए adherence to the Ind AS is very much important from the viewpoint of the reporting in the financial statements. So until and unless we are expert in the Ind AS 40, those who want to be an expert in the Ind AS or the IFRS compliances, so for that particular chartered accountant can go into that area, and there is a huge demand outright there. Benami transactions, NPOs, advisory on the tax matters, audit under the applicable laws. Then there comes the drafting of the wills, power of attorneys. आप देखते हैं कि इनकम टैक्स में जब फेसलेस असेसमेंट हुई है तो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट की जो ड्राफ्टिंग स्किल्स है वो कितनी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करती है, कितना वाइटल रोल प्ले करती है. सो इफ वी आर नॉट एक्सपर्ट इन ड्राफ्टिंग देन वी विल नेवर बी एबल टू serve to the client. And if we learn the drafting skills, we learn about this technical skills, then we can eventually go beyond our traditional practice, and we can be a successful chartered accountant in our particular area or the 40. So whenever anyone passes away, तो succession कैसे होता है, legal heirs के क्या rules and regulations है, उसमें भी हम अपनी advisory build कर सकते हैं. तो अभी बहुत से चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को ये एडवाइजरी देनी पड़ी, उनको पता भी नहीं था क्या रूल्स रेगुलेशंस है. देन हमने पढ़ा उन सब चीजों को, एंड देन इवेंचुअली कुड एडवाइज टू द डिसीज्ड वन कि फर्दर लीगल वे में क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा. तो नेगोशिएशन, कॉन्सिलिएशन, कमर्शियल डिस्प्यूट्स, आर्बिट्रेटर हम बन सकते हैं, मीडिएटर बन सकते हैं. देयर आर वेरियस कॉन्सेप्ट्स आउटराइट देयर. We can assist in the preparation of the claims or any defense pleadings. There are different areas. MSME का मैंने आपको बता दिया, तो I am just running through the slides so that members can touch upon these areas. Drafting under Companies Act में तो बहुत से contracts, MOA, AOA, Companies Incorporation हम करते ही हैं CS. तो जो incorporation में expert है तो वो ये एग्रीमेंट्स को बिल्डअप कर सकते हैं. हायर परचेज एग्रीमेंट, प्रॉपर्टी एग्रीमेंट्स, पेटेंट एंड टेक्नोलॉजी एग्रीमेंट्स, कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस, मर्जर अमलगमेशंस, ऑपरेशंस एंड मिसमैनेजमेंट, बाइंडिंग अप के ऊपर आप कंसल्टेंसी दे सकते हो. कंपनीज एक्ट में बहुत सारे एरियाज हैं, तो सभी सेक्शंस के साथ ये मैंने स्लाइड में शो किए हैं. मैं जस्ट रन थ्रू कर रहा हूँ सो दैट यू कैन रियली सी कि इतने सारे एरियाज हमारे लिए अवेलेबल हैं. To have the holistic view of the governance framework, then comes with the internal, external coordination, business valuations, valuation of shares, filing of appeal before tribunals. So as a new qualified CAs, we can assist the client in appointing the registered valuers, legal and other professionals. We can assist in company in evolving strategy from the legal, financial point of view, in meeting the criteria and various other similar stakeholders. Act as a liquidator, then comes drafting, and all I have covered. So there are certain tribunals जिसमें हम advisory दे सकते हैं. So these are certain emerging areas where you can work. 15 CSCB हम सबको पता ही है, corporate social responsibility, recent amendments, GST की आपको पता है बहुत सारी amendments आ रही हैं, तो you can advise the client in meeting out the various amendments in the GST area. Gram Panchayats are another very lucrative area where CS can give advices, and a lot of Gram Panchayats are there, तो उनका भी audit होता है. Railways, Gram Panchayats, XBRL reporting, corporate social responsibility, or there are few cryptocurrency revolution, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, startup India. ये कुछ ऐसे areas हैं जिसके लिए young chartered accountants, especially in new technologies को अगर वो learn नहीं करेंगे तो they will be lacking behind. तो अगर मैं बात करूं कि अगर जोहो बुक्स या कोई भी अदर सॉफ्टवेयर बैंक स्टेटमेंट को कैचअप करता है फ्रॉम द नेट बैंकिंग और वो डायरेक्टली एंट्रीज भी लगा देता है, तो देखिए कि हाउ वी आर मूविंग इनटू द टेक्नोलॉजी रिवॉल्यूशन. तो वी नीड टू सी कि वेयर वी स्टैंड एंड हाउ टाइम्स आर चेंजिंग, and until unless we are getting ourselves updated with those changes, we will never be able to make it. We need to unlearn the traditional parts, we need to relearn these technologies, and only then we can gain success. We need to upskill ourselves, we need to be technology savvy, we need to focus on the holistic wellness, be it physical or mental, intellectual, and the spiritual part. We need to build up our all the areas, we need to work upon that, and then we can outshine in our field. We need to be innovative, we need to enhance our soft skills, be it communication skills, be it email writing skills. For that, Institute organizes the GNCS sessions. तो आप देखिए, knowledge is power. In last of the slides, I would say APJ Abdul Kalam ji has rightly said कि there are two knowledges. One is explicit knowledge and another one is implicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge तो हमने बहुत सारी पढ़ ली, published books से, written material से. But what we need to learn is the implicit knowledge through observations. Thanks to the mentors, thanks to the senior chartered accountants, जो हमें बताते हैं कि सर ट्रेडिशनल प्रैक्टिस में मत जाओ, हम 10 साल से कर रहे हैं, there is no future, आप स्पेशलाइजेशन में जाओ. So thanks to those mentors. So we need to gain the implicit knowledge, and that is how you can find your niche. You can identify a problem, you can deal in that segment, you can choose a method to solve that problem in the market. You can validate your niche on 5 P's. There must be a passion, potential, problem, persona. There should be an audience, and outright there should be a payment to that particular niche. And you need to research on that particular problem, and outrightly success will all be yours. And success finally is a continuous journey. It is not any shortcut. And if you can't, who else can? So do not hesitate to get what you want. And by learning these skills, not going to work. You need to execute. You need to practically implement those skills, and only then you can be success and be the action taker. Thank you so much. It was all from my side. Whatever I could deliver in the allotted time period, I have delivered. Maybe I might not be able to touch upon all the areas, but I was able to show the areas of the opportunities. There are 144 slides, and each slide had like 7 or 8 opportunities. So you can eventually see there are more than 1,000 emerging opportunities for the chartered accountants. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your patient hearing. Over to you, organizers.
Thank you. Thanks, Shiva Goyal ji, for the wonderful and session full of knowledge. And now, can we proceed on with the queries?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. If any queries are there, then I'm more than happy to serve that. Yes.
Please guide that how to get confidence until and unless we work in any of the newly emerging areas, and why will the client trust someone new?
Okay, so for the young members, there is a very correct question from the member कि जब भी हम मार्केट में नहीं आते हैं then क्लाइंट्स को क्रेडिबिलिटी नहीं आती है न्यू चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट पे, एंड इवेंचुअली थोड़ा सा ट्रस्ट का इश्यूज रहता है. तो हाउ वी कैन बिल्ड आवर forte to that client is by taking the leverage of the experienced chartered accountant. Ki sir, I have been trained, I have an experience of 3 years of articleship training, and we can build our credibility taking from our principal. Like we can say to the client ki sir, I have been trained in that particular area and I have practical exposure in that area. So client will see, yeah, yes, there is a 3-year experience in that particular area. So client, and by the time you do the assignments, you study those concepts, so you will be able to build your credibility in the new areas. Nikhil ji.
Thanks, Shivaji, for the wonderful session.
Another questions are there?
No, this one.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Shivaji. Thank you so much on behalf of CMP of ICI. I extend my heartiest thanks, and I would like to apprise you that in spite of suffering from dengue, he has deliberated for complete 1 hour without showing he is suffering from fever. And in the morning, he was having fever around 103. And now he has deliberated for 1 hour. Thank you so much, sir. From the core of our heart, thank you so much for sparing your valuable time.
It's indeed a pleasure for me that I was able to share my insights, and we all are learning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are having our another learned speaker, Abhishek Gupta ji. Welcome to you, Abhishek Gupta ji. Welcome, sir. So over to Vice Chairman, sir, to please start the proceedings of second technical session, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now we are moving towards the second session of the day. We have with us an eminent speaker, CA Abhishek Gupta ji, for the second session of today's webinar. And now I would proceed with the brief introduction profile of CA Abhishek Gupta ji. He is co-founder of Pyrin Global Services LLC. He is having experience in the global assurance and accounting services. He is a leading expert in the offshoring industry with a wealth of knowledge. He was with EY. He has been associated with EY for almost 10 years, wherein he was part of the core EY leadership team, where he led the offshore assurance commercial practice for EY North America, the biggest practice arm of EY Global. He has also worked with the PwC for almost 5 years. CA Abhishek ji is chartered accountant from India with almost approximate 20 years of experience, passionate for education, skill and technology. He sits on the advisory boards of various institutes covering almost near about of 10,000 students. Now I am requesting CA Abhishek Gupta ji for starting of the session. Over to you, CA Abhishek ji.
Thank you, CA Nikhil ji, for inviting me for this seminar. Thank you, CA Ajay Huda ji, for having me in this wonderful session. Thank you to the CMP of ICI for again inviting me for a different topic. I think I was overwhelmed with CA Shiva's presentation. I think it's been such a kind of a learning for me as well, that what all opportunities lies in the market. So when I was kind of going through the slides, I think it's been a very, very detailed analysis what CA Shiva has done. And I think it's been wonderful for me to kind of see that there are so many other opportunities which probably are not even in our purview, which we don't even think on a daily basis, and how these opportunities can create can create a practice for one aspiring chartered accountant. So completely flattered with the entire slide deck. And when I saw towards the end, it was 144 slides. I think I never realized that you have scrolled down to 144 slides. So I think again, I'm sure that a lot of efforts would have gone behind this. Well, on this note, I think great. The topic which is being being allocated, or the topic which we're going to talk about today, is a very interesting topic, knowing that how the capital markets are booming nowadays, how the IPOs are happening left, right, and center. And in and around this space, there is also a lot of buzz which is happening around these SPACs, which is the special purpose acquisition. I think this is one of the areas where probably we would like to kind of bring some attention more from a kind of an awareness perspective. It's not going to be it's a highly complex, a highly technical topic, but probably given the time, we will definitely touch upon the aspect of getting our fellow members more aware about the SPAC and what are the opportunities which probably can turn around for us as chartered accountants in the future when we are helping any of these SPAC transactions. So on this note, I would like to kind of present my screen and just confirm me, Nikhilji, in case if you can see my screen. Is my screen visible? So I think, as I've said, that we will majorly talk about the rise of special purpose acquisition companies. I assume that majority of you would have been aware about these SPACs. For the folks who are not aware about SPACs, I think I would like to kind of take this as an opportunity for myself to kind of bring you that particular knowledge in terms of what exactly do SPACs means, how this entire transaction happens, and what and where the real opportunity for us as chartered accountants lies. So it's a relatively crowded slide, and so do the next couple of following slides. But I think still we are not able to kind of capture all the required information. But just to kind of give you a kind of a perspective that what do we mean by SPAC? So SPACs are normally, they are the blank check companies because they go public for fundraising and listing before they actually acquire a target company. So now the question comes is, what is a target company? Why do we need to kind of create a blank check company? But before we kind of really dive into that, let me kind of try and break this entire definition of a SPAC. So SPAC is nothing but it is a shell company. They don't have any underlying business except for the only purpose that they need to raise funds from the public to an IPO. And then those funds are being utilized to acquire a company which will eventually get merged into that particular SPAC. So that is the reason why it is being called special purpose acquisition company, because this company is being formed to acquire another company. And the reason why the SPACs are being formed and what are the common objectives of having SPACs is the real underlying reason is to really shorten and de-risk the entire IPO process. As we all understand that if any company plans to go for an IPO, that entire journey of going into an IPO takes about 2 to 3 years. And for a company or an organization to kind of get themselves prepared, then kind of finding the investment bankers, valuations, and so on and so forth. However, in SPACs, through SPACs, the route can be much, much faster and it can be much more easier. The regulatory challenges are not as deep or are not as complex as they are in the IPO space. So practically that also kind of eases out to the favor of the SPACs. The third is that it also provides a kind of a gateway or a segue for the startups to really go for the listing in a very short span of time. Otherwise, once you need to kind of go for an IPO, you need to kind of at least spend about 10 to 15 years to build your credibility in the market and so on. And that is a time when you kind of get mature to kind of go for an IPO. But in this, through SPACs, probably this process can be much more faster and much more easier. Just to kind of share some kind of an interesting statistics, and I think there's something which is very interesting is that the total number of IPOs which have undergone through SPACs till date in the US. So SPACs are predominantly which are kind of majorly governed in the US, but yes, other regulators or other countries are also open for that. So in FY 2021, which is this particular calendar year, there have been 489 SPACs which have been listed so far, so which is an incredibly higher number. In 2020, there were about 248 companies which have listed through the SPAC route. The majority of the SPACs looks for the target companies which they want to acquire are in the technology, media, and telecom space, which is called TMT, and it's about 35%. 14% of the acquisition companies comes from the bracket of healthcare. So the funds which have been raised by these SPACs have been incredibly higher. Almost $135 billion have been raised in FY 2021 between these 489 companies, and about 83 billion have been kind of raised in FY 2020, which is amongst those 248 companies. So average deal size in a SPAC transaction is about $81 million, and that's a kind of again a reasonably sized number what comes across for each deal size. So looking into these numbers, looking into these statistics, I think it becomes more and more exciting for us to kind of really go a little deeper into it and see who all are the parties which are being associated in this entire so-called SPAC transaction. So there are three major parties, three major elements which gets associated in this entire journey. The first one is the founder or the sponsor. The second one are the investors, and third one is the target company for whom this entire SPAC is being created. So normally, who are the sponsors? Sponsors are the people who have got exceptional institutional experience. They are the ones who are already involved in a lot of M&A deals and so on. They can be very prominent personalities out in the market, people who are being very well known in the market, big industrialists, big industry houses. And they are the ones who bases their credibility, bases their name in the market, they can come out in the market and launch the SPAC. And for launching the SPAC, they might need to kind of give a very nominal amount. By that nominal amount, they get a majority of the share. So once that entire transaction happens, they kind of normally hold about 20% of the equity stake in SPAC. And that means that by investing a very limited amount of money, they are still able to kind of generate almost 20% of the stake. The objective is that the timelines are less, so they can kind of go for an IPO very quickly. So that kind of excites the sponsors and the investors as well, that they might kind of get a very strong return on investment. Now, the investors comes into play. So what happened is that once the company is being formed, the SPAC company is being formed, the sponsors normally get the shares listed, and they kind of take the permissions from the SEC, which is the Security Exchange Controls Board, to kind of go for the road shows, and they try and identify investors. Investors are nothing but they are the common public. They can be small institutions as well, and they convince those investors that if they make an investment into their company, which is being formed with the perspective of identifying a target company, and once the target company comes on board, automatically they will become a kind of larger unit with having an underlying business underneath them. So that is an excitement which brings the investors on board. And normally the investors invest because they believe and they have a kind of a trust and a faith on the sponsor. So that makes the investor to kind of invest into that company. The typical price of what the investor pays is almost $10 per unit, and for 1 unit they will get a share and share of the company, and they will also get a warrant which they can exercise in the future. Now, once the company is being formed, they have got the investors, the IPO has happened, the investors are there, and then comes the next stage where the investor has to go, or the company has to go for the target acquisition. And that is a time when the investors have got their right to say yes or no to approve the target. In case if the target is something which probably the investors doesn't believe into that, so they might kind of say no. And in case if they say no, they have got the option to redeem their shareholding and get their money back. And even if they're saying yes till the time the entire merger happens with the target company, the money which is being invested by the investors remains in a trust. So that money cannot be utilized anywhere other than with the purpose of acquiring the target company. Now the target comes into play. Target companies are the ones which are typically the startups who are really kind of going out to figure out how they can raise funds, how they can expand their entire businesses. So normally, historically, the SPACs were looking for the target companies which have some presence, which have got a good amount of revenue sitting on their financial statements, have got a decent EBITDA, and so on. But however, since last 1 year, now the SPACs are also okay to invest into the companies or to kind of acquire target companies which are in their pre-revenue stage, or they are in the story stock companies. Story stock companies are predominantly the companies which have got a strong value and have gotten expectations to kind of go multifold in the near term. And the purpose of, again, why the target company wants to kind of go for this entire SPAC route is that it helps them to kind of go for a faster timeline for an IPO. Again, then pre-negotiated terms are there, so you don't have a risk of your valuation, that what kind of a valuation you will generate and whether your list shares will be subscribed or not subscribed. So the entire terms and conditions are being fixed right on day one, as and when you kind of enter into that transaction. And the last but not the least is that this target companies gets the sponsorship of these sponsors or the founders, which in a way are very, very prominent and very experienced people. So this is how the three parties gets involved in the entire SPAC transaction. Now I'll talk about the life cycle of how the entire SPAC formation happens, how the target companies are being identified, and so on. I think to an extent we have kind of talked about a little bit in the previous slide as well. But this is a life cycle. This is a kind of a graph which gives you a complete overview. So as we discussed, the investor or the sponsor or the founder comes in, they form a company. Once they form a company, then they go for a listing. Once they're going for the listing, at that time, they get investors from the market, like common public, who invest money into the company for approximately $10 per unit. For 1 unit, they get each share and a warrant. And the money which is being received into the company, that is being parked in a trust. Once that stage is being done, once the IPO is being done, then the SPAC companies normally start looking out for the targets. And the targets, as we discussed, are predominantly being looked into 2-3 different sectors. 50% of that is into TMT, which is technology, media and telecom, and healthcare. And once the target company is being identified, then the negotiations and diligence starts happening with the target company, where the SPAC needs to kind of do the due diligence of the company, whether it is financial due diligence, legal due diligence, or the tax diligence. So once they kind of satisfy that this company might be a right company or an organization has got a future and probably has got an opportunity to kind of go multifold, that is the time when they discuss and decide that this is probably the company which they would like to acquire. However, just one thing which is very interesting is that the regulators, the SEC, allows only 24 months to identify a target company, because the simple fact is that the investors have invested money. You would have seen that over almost $131 billion have been flooding in the market. The investors are investing in you without having business, without having any background, but just on a plain faith that the promoter or the sponsor will be able to find a reasonable target company. So that is the reason why the regulators have put a catch that in case if the entire transaction of the target company is not in 3-4 months, then this money needs to be returned back to the investors. So that is one thing. Once the target company identification is being done, they do the entire structuring in terms of how the equity stock will be structured, who will be the major holders, how the holding company structuring will be done, whether the target company will act like a subsidiary or whether it will act like a holding company, and so on. And once that entire structuring is being done, then the deal is being agreed, provided they get an approval from the shareholders. So considering that the majority part of the stake in the SPAC is being held by the external stakeholders, which are the investors, so it becomes important for the deal to be approved by the shareholders. So in case if the shareholder says no, we don't see a merit in this target company, we don't agree to this, then again the SPAC will get dissolved and the funds will be returned to the investors. In case if again the SPAC is not able to kind of identify another target company within that stipulated time of 24 months. If the shareholder says, yes, we agree, everything is legitimate, we agree to this entire deal, then the entire SPAC merger happens, and that is being termed in a nomenclature which is called de-SPAC. However, when the target company is being acquired, there might be a scenario where the target company is good in terms of having a very high valuation from an acquisition perspective, but they might not have strong liquidity within themselves. So just to kind of pump in more money, considering that this entire merged entity or the new entity will be a public entity, the founders or the sponsors might kind of go out in the market again to kind of look for the PIPE investors. So PIPE investors are the ones which probably makes a private investment in the public entities. So normally at this time, the venture capitalists or the private equities comes into play to kind of infuse additional funds of money. They take a portion of the new merged entity. So this is the entire life cycle of how this entire SPAC transaction happens, and how in a private company which doesn't have a kind of any kind of a background, doesn't have any kind of strong plans to kind of go for IPO, can really take this faster route of going to an IPO by merging themselves with a originally identified SPAC company or originally formed SPAC company. Here are some of the benefits and downsides of the SPAC company. The benefits, I think I've kind of talked a couple of times. It's a very quick process of 3 to 4 months as compared to a traditional IPO, because yes, once you form a company, you can definitely go for an IPO very quickly in a SPAC format. The company can negotiate the terms and valuation of the offering, making it a more secure process. So unlike an IPO where the startup doesn't have a kind of a visualization how the listing will happen, how the capitalization is going to turn out, and so on. At least over here, they secure their valuation by once they're getting acquired by a SPAC. Experienced leadership, sponsors brings a lot of knowledge and experience with themselves, and that helps the target companies to kind of go further. So in case if any of the big industry houses or any of the big institutional investor is a sponsor and they are the ones who kind of identify a target company, then automatically the target company will be fueled in terms of their overall aspirational growth in the future. Significant gains for sponsors makes a huge amount of they take a huge amount of return out of this entire investment. You would have seen in the earlier slide that by making a small contribution of about $25,000, they can form the company and they take almost 20% of the entire holding of the company. So that is a huge amount which they kind of take once the entire consolidation happens and the valuation happens. And the other interesting factor is that the investors are not at risk because they have got a redemption option. In case if any transaction doesn't fit in well, or the target doesn't comes into play, or this entire merger doesn't happen, so the investors can take back their money, and the trust needs to kind of pay them the interest which is being accrued till the time that where the money was sitting in that. Downsides, I think the downside is that SPACs sponsor competence is also one of the downside, because the entire investor blindly trusts the sponsor and then make their investment only on the basis of the sponsor's competence. The other downside is time constraint. 24 months. It's a relatively very smaller time for a SPAC to kind of identify a target, making sure that that target is a public ready company. They are compliant with all the rules, regulations, and the requirements for the home country. And that is where it takes, it's a shorter period of time. Loss of equity for target. So as we have also discussed that the sponsors pay a smaller amount, and for a smaller amount, they get a bigger stake. So this might lead to kind of a huge dilution for a target company, because eventually it is a target company who runs this entire show. So they might have to dilute 20% stake to the sponsor. So that is a kind of a huge loss, but still a workable deal in the overall scheme of things. There is an element of overpayment as well, and might in very few cases an underpayment as well. But since the SPAC is required to spend about 80% of the money which they have kind of gathered from the investors, they have to make sure that they are able to kind of identify an organization or the target company which is having a similar kind of value. So supposedly that there is the SPAC is able to kind of gather about $100 million or $200 million as per the deal size. So if $200 million have been captured, so they need to kind of make sure that there is the target company which they're acquiring has got a valuation of minimum $160 million. And at that point, there might be a kind of a scenario where you might end up valuing a company for $160 million, wherein the actual valuation of the company might be you can't do exact matching, and it is not that you have to match exactly 80%, but that's a ballpark number. This is where there might be a kind of a risk which is involved. The last but not the least, this route looks very interesting, very easy, but still almost 20% plus or 25% plus of the SPACs are still not able to kind of identify their targets. And the simple reason is that identifying the targets have got their multiple conditions attached to it. And once the target identification is being done, their public readiness, and last but not the least is the approval from the shareholders or the investors. So that in itself is a kind of a tedious job where you have to kind of get a buy-in from all the investors that they're okay with this entire merger. So I think that is where a lot of deals doesn't go through, and the SPACs might have to kind of dissolve in a period of 2 years. So that's a kind of a very high level fundamental overview about SPACs. I think just to kind of give you a glance and glimpse in terms of what SPACs are, who are the parties who are involved, how the life cycle of a SPAC looks like, and in terms of what are the benefits and what are the downsiders which are being attached to this entire SPAC. Well, interestingly, now we will talk a little bit about India and SPACs, how this entire connection works out, and where we see a whole lot of opportunity for us as a country in terms of seeing SPAC as one of the routes for us to kind of go for a fundraising or go for a public listing. So just to kind of bring your attention to a couple of things. One is India is third in the list of the overall countries having the maximum number of unicorns. You would have seen that 30 plus unicorns have been listed or have been accounted for in 2021, where in total we have about 64 unicorns. As I'm saying, 50% of them came in 2021. The combined valuation of the unicorns has been about $221 billion as of September 2020. So again, a huge valuation which these unicorns are sitting up. In India, we have got 55,000 startups with more than 3,200 raising 63 billion of funding in the last 5 years. And India is being ranked 12th globally in terms of number of IPOs, with almost 41 IPOs raising almost close to $5 billion. So looking into this interesting facts and how the country is kind of zooming and booming in and around the startup space, and of late, specifically after the Zomato listing, we have been seeing that a lot of new startups are kind of aggressively taking the IPO routes. Nykaa is the second in the chain, which is going to kind of list now, and so on. And there are multiple startups which are there behind them who are looking for these kind of listings. At one point of time, the e-commerce or the tech-based startups were being considered to be very vulnerable. Though still, if we look into the statistics from a Zomato perspective, they look vulnerable and all. But there are a lot of opportunities where at least the SEBI has kind of pulled on some kind of a levers to kind of allow these companies to kind of get listed. However, in spite of that, it is not possible or it is not practical for every company to take an IPO route, and that is where these SPACs can come out very handy. The latest deal which India has encountered is Renew Power, Sumant Sinha's company. So Renew Power is the one which has gone through a SPAC merger with a Nasdaq listed RMG Acquisition Corporation. So that was the name of the SPAC, RMG Acquisition Corporation. It is amongst the largest listings involving an Indian company in the US via this route. The deal value was almost $8 billion. And I think, though it was not the first one, there were a couple of SPAC transactions, mergers and reverse mergers, which have happened in the past as well. But that's the biggest which has happened in this particular calendar year. Well, let's now talk about a little bit on the potential targets, potential market in terms of how India can be an exciting market from this entire SPAC IPO standpoint. If you look into the 2021 statistics, there have been 489 SPAC listings, which we discussed in the previous slide as well. And out of 489, it's only 87 who have announced their targets till date. So practically 400 companies are still looking for target acquisitions. And 248 were there in the last year, out of which only 88 are still searching for targets. So that in itself kind of gives a huge number. And if we just do some kind of a linkage between this statistics and this particular statistics, where India is the house for it's the third largest country in terms of the unicorns, then there is a whole lot of opportunities which are available for these unicorns. And when I'm focusing on unicorns predominantly because they are the ones who have established their presence in the market for the last 2 or 3 years, have got the fund business, have got their either story stock going on very good for them, or they have started kind of making revenue in their books. So from that perspective, India can be a very exciting opportunity, or the startups can have an exciting opportunity for having this kind of a merger or a kind of an arrangement between the two organizations. Interestingly, in the US, there have been some funds which have launched a SPAC, which is being very much focused on India as a market. So venture capital firms like Elevation Capital and Think Investments, they've launched a SPAC focused on India technology companies who are looking to kind of list in the US. So India focus and tech focus. So that is how focused these SPAC companies are when they come kind of look for their target company. Some historical deals, Yatra was being acquired by Terrapin Acquisition Corp. It was again a kind of SPAC transaction. Videocon was listed on the NASDAQ through a reverse merger with Silver Eagle Acquisition Corp. But the other thing which comes to mind is that if there is so much potential, if the route is so easy, why our regulators are not kind of really thinking about it? And why our regulators are not kind of really thinking that probably we can have, we within India can start a SPAC. So why we need to kind of go to a foreign land to kind of get merged with another entity from a NASDAQ? Why can't we have a SPAC structuring within India where we can kind of have a kind of amalgamation between the two companies when it comes to the same geography? So yes, at this point of time, the current regulatory framework doesn't support because when it comes to the regulatory framework, there are multiple bodies which get associated, whether it is the Companies Act, whether it is SEBI, whether it is FEMA, whether it is Income Tax Act. And at this point of time, the current provisions of either of these acts are having their own internal challenges from the overall SPAC listing perspective. So that is the reason why it is not really still structured, it's being formed. However, having said that, it doesn't mean that the regulators are not taking this into consideration. There has been a lot of debate, a lot of confrontation, a lot of industry representations which have happened. And the Indian regulators have formed up the committee almost a few months, 4 or 5 months back, wherein they're looking into the overall feasibility of SPACs in India. There has been a recent report which has been submitted by the committee as well. And that is one interesting thing which is now coming up is that that there is a very high likelihood that probably in India might allow for a SPAC listing for a kind of a defined territory, which is the GIFT City in Ahmedabad. So within the GIFT City, they are looking for, in case if there are organizations which have to kind of go for their listing for SPAC route and then eventually acquire a company, that can be done, but still not something which is being out as a kind of a formal announcement. Yes, but there has been a lot of buzz around that. Some kind of taxation challenges specifically for the investors, the capital gains from the transfer of capital. This shares is taxable in India in the hands of the shareholders of the target. So that is something which is not favorable from a taxation standpoint. However, it can be sorted out once the SPACs are made functional in India, because this will be, as I've said, that it will be a kind of an amalgamation between the two entities. And that will be a tax neutral kind of a transaction. If we that's on the regulatory framework side. If we look into the pipeline, I think startups are definitely, as we have been kind of talking quite aggressively, that startups are the value drivers for India, and SPACs might give them a kind of facelift, or they help them in getting them that right opportunity to do the fundraising and go for exponential growth. Couple of companies which are exploring this route were in the pipeline. Flipkart, Grofers are the ones which are in the US. Freshworks, again, I'm sure that everyone is aware that it has made a lot of noise in the last month or so, where they were kind of being able to raise almost $1.03 billion with a market capitalization of almost $10 billion. InMobi, again, a unicorn, is planning to get listed on NASDAQ by December 2020. And if you look into the current framework, the market, India is looking for at least 100+ listing in the next 5 years. So which is huge, and which is numbers in terms of the number of listings. And there are a lot of opportunities in India, whether it is going for direct listing on a site, or whether taking the route of a SPAC for getting merged and kind of I think probably the aspect where we as a chartered accountants can come, as a practitioners can come to kind of really support this entire stuff is that when we kind of talk about any merger of a SPAC with the target company, it hoists a number of challenges. It is not as simple as we talked about, but meeting the requirements for public company readiness, meeting the regulator and compliance requirements, accounting, financial reporting standards requirements, and so on and so forth. So there are whole lot of complexities which gets associated with the target company, specifically for once the merger happens and for the well. And if we look into the size and the scale of either the SPAC or the target company, the SPACs are, as we said, that they are being formed just basis the sponsors or the investors. So they don't have a very robust financial accounting systems, or they don't have a really strong in-house team. Similarly, for target companies, when we kind of talk about these unicorns and startups, they are big, but when it comes to their overall structuring of their finance and accounts department and their internal teams, I think considering the pace at which these companies have grown and to have achieved these kind of valuations, they are still in the framework of building up those processes. They are still in the framework of building up that robust financial accounting systems. So this is where, again, these target companies might require a lot of assistance, hand-holding, onboarding, and so on. And this is where at least we see that there can be a whole lot of opportunities for us as a professionals. So I would like to kind of really talk about the opportunities probably in two spheres. One is the time of the merger, and probably at that once the merger is done and you become a holding company as a whole. So once you are being identified as a target company, you have to kind of get your financial statements prepared both for annually and quarterly basis, regulations, or the required applicable GAAP requirements can be in IFRS, can be in GAAP. And all the disclosures needs to kind of go from a substantial uplift, because you would have been an organization, would have been kind of working on either IGAAP or IND-AS, but it would require a kind of substantial uplift from a notes perspective, from a disclosure standpoint. That is one area where probably we can come up very handy, where we can help these companies in terms of preparation of their financial statements and then reporting in those financial statements on a periodic basis. The other step is diligence. The companies needs to undergo our diligence. So I think in case if any of the fellow members who are being engaged into M&A transactions or working on the FDD side, the financial due diligence side, we can come out very handy in terms of supporting these companies, in terms of going through their entire diligence process, doing the analysis on the financial statement, historical and prospective. The other thing which comes out is the complex accounting, which is on the technical accounting space. So falls under the umbrella of accounting advisory. So this is where you can assist the clients in terms of updating their complex accounting treatments like revenue recognition, acquisition, goodwill impairment, equity and share-based payments, and financial instruments from the complexity standpoint. These companies also needs to undergo an audit from COB standards. So once your financial statements are being prepared in line with the SEC requirements and the PCOB standards from GAAP, local GAAP, so then you have to kind of go for an audit under the PCOB standards if you're looking for it. Internal controls. The companies needs to really strengthen their internal coding, which is the ICFR side of the thing. And they have to kind of create robust systems, processes, so that they become SOX compliant. So because once they become public, they have to kind of follow this. They automatically comes under the SOX regime. So for them to kind of really comprehend with the SOX regime, their processes needs to be very well built up. The controls needs to be identified. The entire RCM, the risk control matrix, and everything. So they need to be SOX ready as well. So this entire avenue in itself is a big project where you have to make a client SOX ready. And when you have to kind of make a client SOX ready, it starts from your risk assessment, doing the risk control matrices, doing the entire process studies, controls, identifying the risk and defining the control, and then performing the respective controls testings, both from a design and the operating effectiveness. Finance effectiveness, again, majority of these companies, whether the target companies we talk about, are normally on Tally or QuickBooks or very minimally invasive or very minimally complex softwares. So they hardly operate on Oracle or SAP and so on. So once you become public, there is a very high likelihood that your functions become more robust. Since you have become ICFR, SOX compliant, and so on. So there is a very high likelihood that you have to kind of go for a change in ERP systems. And I remember Shiva was also kind of referring about how we can help the clients in terms of their overall technology upliftment. So that is where we can come out very handy with the clients. Financial planning and analysis. I think this is again a very interesting avenue. So you are being identified as a target company, the investors definitely expect your credible forward-looking statement, and that's as part of the MD&A, which is the document which goes as part of the financial statement in the US. And this requires a rigorous and accurate budget and forecasting processes. So you need to kind of prepare forecasting budgets for the target company for prospective years. And last but not the least is on the tax side, where somebody has to really help in structuring the entire deal out, more from a taxation perspective. Yes, from a stocks, from a valuations perspective, the investment bankers comes into play. But tax is one thing where you probably can help in the structuring side of it. So these are the things where probably we can support these target companies to kind of really get public ready or to kind of really get ready for their analysis through the shareholders. And once that stage is being done, once the acquisition is being done, you become a consolidated new company as an asset that the target company is the major driving in. They're the ones who are the ones then start driving the real vehicle. So that is where the bigger opportunity comes into play, where you might get an opportunity for do their ICFR compliances, their SOX audits, their statutory audits, and so at least on the assistant side, or their internal audits for the consolidated entity. So I think this is a whole lot of opportunities, and on top of it, which probably can be a big opportunity where we kind of normally see that we as a our business keeps on getting these opportunities from an investment banking standpoint. We keep on getting requests for fundraising, identifying opportunities in the market. So I think in case if there might be a kind of a potential client of yours who has got this kind of a requirement to kind of go public, is looking out for some different ways and means from an IT standpoint, I think this can be a kind of a consulting opportunity for chartered accountants, where they can consult the clients that this is also one of the routes available in the market. And in case if the client shows some interest, then yes, there is an opportunity for you to kind of start looking out for these SPACs who can be the potential acquirer of those companies. So I think this is a kind of a brief overview in terms of the overall scheme of SPACs and how this entire functionality works. There are a lot of, as I've said, there are a lot of things which are being attached in terms of the accounting side. There are a lot of things in terms of the regulatory side, compliance side, and so on. And for that, we might need to go for multiple other sessions from a deeper dive perspective. But at least the objective, as we said for this session, was to kind of make you aware about what exactly are the SPACs, where the opportunity lies, and how, as we chartered accountants from India, can contribute. At times we think that, okay, this is something which is happening internationally, so we might not have an opportunity over here, but we can definitely do that. And I think probably just to kind of give you an example, we ourselves within our company are working on a couple of diligence and other SOX projects for these SPACs. So just to kind of give you that kind of a comfort, it is not that it is not possible. It is very much possible. We ourselves are working, so it makes sense for us to kind of really share our experiences. So with this, I'll hold my thoughts over here. Nikhil ji, CA, Ajay ji, and would appreciate in case if there are any questions for me.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thanks, C. Abhishek Gupta ji, for sharing your knowledge with us in this webinar. Now, on behalf of hello.
Sir, I hope there is a bandwidth issue in the Vice Chairman sir side. Am I audible?
Actually, there is some network issue.
Vice Chairman sir, आपके यहाँ network issue है sir?
जी, बीच में था, बीच में break हो रही थी. Thanks, C. Abhishek Gupta ji, for sharing your knowledge with us in this webinar. I'm thankful for this session. I'm thankful to all our speakers, C. Abhishek Gupta ji, CA Shiva Goel ji, and the ICI for conducting this webinar. Now, I would like to invite our chairman, CA Ajay Huda ji, for the vote of thanks. Please.
Sir, one query is there. Abhishek sir, may I take this one query? Sir, question is, one holding company is creating multiple special purpose companies to establish the infrastructure projects. If it starts getting dividend from any such subsidiary resulting in income from investments more than 50% of its income, will it be required to get itself registered under NBFC as investment company?
Yeah, I think probably this is a question more related from an Indian perspective, not from a SPAC's perspective, right? So I think, or probably, is there a possibility that you can send me this question and we can address it separately?
Yes, surely. I will send it to you, and then I'll forward to the concerned member, sir.
Right. So you can send the question and we can address that.
Sure, sir. Over to Chairman, sir.
Thank you, sir. A great session. Both of the speakers are very knowledgeable and they share lot of important things to the members. I think that was really helpful to the members. Now, on behalf of the Rohtak branch of NARC of ICI and the committee for the member in practice of ICI, thanking you, our guest speaker, Shri Abhishek Gupta ji, and our participant for joining today on this webinar. Thank you all, and stay safe. Good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. On behalf of CLP of ICI, I also extend my heartiest thanks towards Abhishek ji and Shiva ji for sparing their valuable time. Whenever I call Abhishek ji, in spite of his busy schedule, he always pick my call and always suggest me कि हाँ ऐसा कर सकते हैं, इस तरह का VCM रख सकते हैं, and always मतलब give his kind consent to address the audience. Thank you so much, Abhishek ji. Thank you so much from the core of my heart, as well as on behalf of CLP and Rohtak branch. My heartiest thanks to Abhishek ji also. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I extend my thanks to the Rohtak branch as well as the Honorable Chairman, C. Ajay Huda ji, Honorable Vice Chairman, C. Nikhil Narang ji, for hosting this wonderful VCM. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.